Okay, so this is a little video about how to attach a cuff to a sleeve. It's actually super simple. Once you do it once, you'll get the hang of it and figure it out, but sometimes when you're doing something for the first time, it can be a little bit confusing. Okay, so first of all, you'll have your cuff piece, so it'll look like a long rectangle. You'll fold it in half so that the right sides of the fabric are facing each other. And then you'll sew it along that seam, attaching the two shortest ends to each other to form like a little cylinder, like that. From there, you'll take one of these long edges and fold them over 1 centimeter toward the wrong side of the fabric, just like that. So you'll be looking at the wrong side of the fabric facing out, and you'll fold that edge over 1 centimeter toward the wrong side of the fabric. So you'll have a cuff that looks something like that. The next thing you'll do is you'll actually attach the cuff to the sleeve. So when you do this, you need to ensure that the wrong side of the cuff is facing out and the wrong side of the sleeve is also facing outwards. So you can tell that the wrong side is facing out here because you'll see here is the seam of the underside of the sleeve and the seam of the cuff. So what that means is when you attach the cuff, the right side of the cuff is actually facing toward the wrong side of the sleeve. So what you do is you take the seam that you've just sewn here on the cuff and you match it against that seam on the sleeve and just pin the cuff to the sleeve right around that edge. Now when I am sewing a cuff to a sleeve, especially when it's a gathered sleeve like this one, when I'm sewing it, I like to sew it so I can see this edge here, so I can see the gathered edge, just to make sure that the gathering is sitting nice and flat, and it's not going all weird. So you'll see that I am pinning along the inside here. I'm not pinning on the outside. Now that is not a hard and fast rule. You can do it however suits you. Okay, so there you'll see I have pinned my cuff to my sleeve along that edge, and you'll see that the right side of the cuff is facing toward the wrong side of the sleeve. So the next step is just to sew the cuff to the sleeve using a 1 centimeter seam allowance right the way around this edge here. So here is one that I have prepared earlier. You will see it looks quite similar to this, in that you'll see the wrong side of the sleeve facing out, the wrong side of the cuff facing out, and I've just sewn that seam there right the way around, attaching the cuff to the sleeve. Okay, so the next thing you'll do is you'll just fold the sleeve up, the cuff up like that, so it's sort of facing outward from the sleeve, and then I'll just turn the sleeve in the right way, like this. Okay, so there you go, you'll have your cuff sort of poking out the top of the sleeve. Now at this point I should also say that you can actually, if you like, you could remove this gathered stitching here, the top one, because you're about to fold over the top of it and sew this cuff down, so it might be a good idea to remove that top row there. Okay, so then all you do is you fold the cuff over like this so that you're folding over that seam that you just sewed. So you fold it over right the way around like that, and you will pin it down. Okay, so you just pin that cuff to the sleeve right the way around here. Now, one thing I would say is you'll be able to see like the little seam here, the stitching that you just sewed. It's probably a good idea to make sure that that cuff sits on top of that stitching, just so that when you sew it up, you can't see that stitching anymore. That's not like a super big deal. People probably won't even notice when you're wearing the dress, but just in case it looks a bit nicer. Okay, so there we've got the cuff folded over and pinned back to the sleeve, and then all you have to do is sew a row of top stitching right around this edge here, so close to that folded edge, attaching the cuff to the sleeve. And then after you do that, you'll remove this gathered stitching and you're done. Okay, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions.